I think the sheeple, the first part of the question is what will awaken the sheeple? And I think it's going to be a combination of two things. A lot of shortages out there, like food and gasoline, and at the same time, a number of their bank accounts are just going to vanish. It could be the 30% bail-in, but it could be just vanishing bank accounts. It could be bank failures, and the mid-sized bank failures will all be to the advantage of the bigger banks, because the bigger banks might be owners of the little banks. But the people are going to see shortages and lost bank accounts, and that'll waken them up. But don't get ahead of yourself, because I don't believe you're going to see a widespread awakening of the American public where they're going to say, oh my gosh, look what these evil elite central bankers have done to ruin our lives. Instead, they're going to follow the cue from the corrupt news organizations, and they're going to blame China and the other countries that hold our debt and who are dumping our debt, government debt, and causing a currency crisis, because the news is going to focus on the currency crisis being the major problem, and it'll be China, Russia, Iran, and whatever. And it will, well, you know, they're going to blame Trump for angering them.
Yeah, yep.
Or riling them up.
Yep.
Or forcing their hand. I don't know. But, you know, Trump has a very difficult job in going ahead with progress toward the gold standard. But here's some of the things that he's actively working on that I give him credit for that I really hadn't thought of myself. I know that the Chinese have been buying commercial buildings. They own approximately 1/3 of all the major U.S. cities' commercial buildings. I mean, like, you know, gather together 15 top U.S. cities, including Dallas and Salt Lake City, all of them. And they own 1/3 of the commercial buildings. So they're converting their treasury bonds into U.S. hard assets. But Trump apparently is working towards something much bigger. He's arranging now, and I don't know whether this is, you know, all been signed and sealed, or whether this is a plan in progress, a project at work. But he's trying to get at least $1 trillion of Japanese pension money that is in the form of U.S. Treasury bonds to be not converted, but to be put to work to build the U.S. infrastructure back again with highways, high-speed trains, toll roads, bridges, port facilities, maybe even fiber optic lines linking cities, maybe even, you know, wireless connections high speed too. Maybe solar plants and you know, just a lot of things. Call it all infrastructure. Now, if the Japanese do that, my first question is, what's the income stream going to be for that investor? And there's really not a lot of profit for building a port. There's a lot of profit for a toll road.
Right.
But infrastructure is the basis on which businesses are built. So it's going to be kind of interesting. I have a feeling that a deal will be struck with the Japanese where they can build the infrastructure and then have, say, something like 5% royalty of any business that's built upon it.
Wow.
Where the businesses will have some corporate tax breaks with the U.S. government. By the way, U.S. corporate income tax is the highest in all 20 industrialized nations. It's one of the biggest reasons for outsourcing. That's something that Trump is going to try to reverse. So, next comes China. What I'm hearing about China is there are a lot of Western and U.S. businesses in China, and they're all being not ordered, but heavily urged to return back to the U.S. and put your plant and equipment on U.S. soil, because deals will be struck again for income tax benefits, and it's got to be at the same time property tax benefit. You got to have both. Free trade zones usually involve property tax benefits and income tax benefits for a period of like 3 years. I'd like to see Trump have a national initiative of having 50,000 new companies formed in the United States each year, because we must export in order to relieve the $550 billion trade deficit, which hangs over the whole prospect of a legitimate new currency. I'll give you an example. Suppose we come up with 10,000 tons of gold, and we back the dollar with that gold, which would be worth what? I don't have the exact figure, but I think it's going to be on the order of $1 trillion. The point is that after 1 year, the U.S. must be then vulnerable to forfeit $1 trillion worth of gold, because it's our trade deficit. We can't do this, can't do the new dollar without relieving the trade deficit. And Euroraj has come up with an argument. He believes that foreign business ventures can come in with an explosion of new companies and export, like say from a Chinese foundry or a Chinese farm on U.S. soil, export to China on a new business, buy up a U.S. business and send out the export products. And that would relieve much of the $500 billion trade deficit. But what new problem would that cause? Shortages.
Right.
So we're not going to get out of this clean. But I think Trump is going to maybe do a better job than Obama or the moron Bush ever could have done. And by the way, I'd like to say that I believe Obama is every bit as dumb as a rock as baby Bush. It's a good teleprompter reader. You take away his teleprompter and he's not a very good speaker.
That's true.
So, okay, so the entire 10,000 tons of gold is vulnerable in the first year, just from a trade deficit. So my reasoning is that Trump might come about with a plan for the new dollar that's gold backed, but only if significant foreign industry comes in place in order to magnify in a tremendous growth path the exports, which will have the inevitable consequence of shortage unless it's all new capital. And you cannot bring out new capital and export in a matter of a few months. That takes a year or two. So I think we've got a year of vulnerability, even with the new Scheist dollar, with the legitimate backing of gold. And Trump has kind of let it be known, without saying so directly and specifically, that he wants to back the dollar with gold, but he doesn't want foreign gold because we'll lose control. The Chinese have offered to lease gold on their terms, and their terms involve Chinese control of the banking industry rules in the United States. So the U.S. turned that down. I'd like to confiscate whatever Bush gold is left. Just confiscate it like eminent domain. Find a reason. Don't worry about it. Just confiscate it. It's not lying on U.S. soil. I think it's in very well hidden Panama vaults and very well hidden European vaults. But I don't really know. That's beyond my knowledge base. So it's chemtrails and revelations on vaccines, but you know, it could be something a lot more direct and to our liking, like the elite began cooperating on competing gold-backed currencies and banking systems, where they try to promote the Bank for International Settlements in Basel as one of a few alternatives, not the only, but one of a few alternatives. And that would, to me, mean the financial capitulation, and they're going to do their dead level best to have Basel serve as the global repository for gold. I'll give you an example. Bolivia You want to sell your industrial metals to China and receive finished products from China, that's all well and good, but you need gold trade notes, so you need to post 1,000 tons of gold with Basel in order to facilitate Bolivian trade. That's what I don't want to see. I do not want to see Basel serve as the global repository for gold that facilitates the gold trade note. I want it to be multipolar. I want China to have some, India to have some, Indonesia to have some storage of this gold. I want South America and Brazil to have some. I want Peru to have one. I want Panama to have one. I'm talking about multipolar storage of gold for the purpose of gold trade notes and their usage to facilitate global trade. I want Basel to compete with the others, because if they compete, they'll be forced into honesty. But there'll always be an elite group that favors Basel and will get their treasures stolen. Because that's what Basel does. That's where the Nazi headquarters is for global bankers. And, you know, I don't need rubbish email from people telling me that I use fascism and Nazis interchangeably and incorrectly. I believe the U.S. neocons are fascists from the Nazi German bloodline, starting with Papa Bush, son of Prescott Bush, who was a devoted Nazi sympathizer in Germany. Well, he's involved with financing. I think all Wall Street in London were involved in financing the German Nazis, and that's one of their dirtiest secrets. It's not being held as secret much anymore. I was told that California in the South had a couple months with no chemtrails, and I got a reason for that. There are a lot of Air Force bases in Southern California.
Right.
So they don't like spraying their own kind. Chemtrails have a cousin project of blocking California natural rainwater. And that was done with HARP weapons, creating a wall that would prevent the natural flow of rainstorm masses, cloud masses. And they blocked it for several months. And there's a reason for that. It's called the Bush family. Again, they're the plague of humanity. The Bush family is involved in vertically integrated water investments. I'm talking about water purification, water storage, water delivery, you name it.
Right.
Water, water, water. 5 different levels, vertically integrated. And their investments all went way up in value as a result of blocking through the HARP weapon of the natural rainwater